Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. And today we're going to be looking at a game between Zadock Nyakundi and Maawali Ammar. Actually, it's between Maawali and Zadock. Zadock played black. So this is the tournament that's going on in Muscat, Oman right now. It's the World Under 1700 Championship. And yeah, Zadock was the champion. I think the Africa Under 1700 Champion, and that's why he's playing in the tournament. He is there to now, claim the World Under 1700 Championship, which we are very much in belief, very much behind him. So let's look at the first game he played today. Opponent opened with one e4. Zadock replied with the Scandinavian defense, which I usually don't advocate for. I really don't like this opening because my record against it is quite positive, and as white I mean, and I don't really see the practical chances that black has after playing the Scandinavian. But considering the rating difference between Zadock and his opponent, I think it's a practical way to play because it gives you a fight. It avoids that much theory, and it's a really dynamic and very sharp opening. So Zadock accepted the pawn. uh, Queen takes d5, knight to c3, queen back to d8, and bishop to c4. Now this is a very unique opening. I haven't seen it quite a lot because what I play against the Scandinavian after takes, I play my knight to f3, and if you play something like bishop to g5, then play bishop to e2. If they play knight to f6, play d4, knight here, I can castle. And this pawn is usually not free because if you take here, you immediately lose to queen takes on c6 check, which then leaves the queen undefended. So that's the system I play, and the type of position ideally that I'm trying to achieve after something like bishop to d6, after c3, or castles. Either move is possible. Castles, and maybe after this, I mean, I can even take, and the position becomes, the type of structure I'm looking for. Let's say they play something like e6, just as an example, if they don't go aggressive on me. I want my other knight here. I want the opportunity to play either bishop to c4 or knight to c4. If knight goes to c4, then I want my knight not sitting on e5 with the defense of the other knight, and the other position is perfect. I can play my queen to b3, queen to a4, and my moves from there are usually just simple, and they play themselves really. So seeing this variation with bishop to c4 is quite new to me. I've never seen it before. Might have seen it, but I haven't seen it as often as the other lines like knight to c3, after then maybe pushing d4 here immediately. So bishop to pawn, knight to f6, just continue development, knight to f3, bishop to f5, d3, and I really didn't like this d3 move. I mean, take the center. You're white. You should be playing aggressively. You should be trying to get an advantage from the opening. And by playing d3, it looks so timid. Looks because we'll see the effect that d3 has later in the game. I much more prefer playing d4 and creating some sort of an outpost on e5 for my knights. So after d3, 6, bishop to g5, bishop to d7, castles, rook to e1, knight to b to d7, queen to d2, queen to d2. Just both sides continuing with their development. c6, just stopping any ideas of maybe pushing d4, d5. Which again, if you are going to push d4, you might have just as well done it earlier. So a3 was played, rook to e8 and h3, and I didn't really like these two previous moves from white. They're really passive and they're not really giving white that much to play for. So if you're playing a3, at least follow it up with something like maybe b4, b5. Try and undermine this queenside structure. Or if you're going to play h3 instead, then just play it without, without playing. You can just throw it in right now. You can play it without throwing in a3. So I didn't really like these two previous moves from white. They really lost a lot of time for white. So h3, h6, bishop was played back, queen to c7, bishop to g3, and bishop to d6. Now this is a position that I wanted to show you guys. If we had played d4 instead of d3 in this position, uh, let's say played d4, and the game maybe continued the same way it did, with maybe 6, bishop to g5. I'm just going to make random moves and sort of try and achieve the same position that was there. Now in this position, with the inclusion, with the pawn on d4 instead of d3, we can throw our knight into e5, and our knight sits perfectly on e5. I mean, this is a position as white. I think this is a position as white you're trying to strive for. You're trying to have your knight perfectly placed on e5. You're trying to have control of the entire center with your knight. I mean, your knight is just patched up beautifully on e5, and I think this is the best piece on the board, all things considered. So we have this sort of the same uh, we so we have the same position, but we don't have the option of going knight to e5, because if you go knight to e5 now, we just lose the piece. So takes, bishop takes. You can't really take back with the rook, because then queen takes and you do a really quick count of the pieces, and white is down a rook. So you want to avoid such things, and that's why you need your pawn on d4 to really provide that anchor on e5. So okay, sorry about that. So in this position, um, after bishop to g3, clearly attacking the queen on c7, bishop to d6 is played, offering the bishop tree. Not know what the problem is. Okay, so bishop to d6 was played, and white played bishop back to h2. No idea why this was played. I am maybe trying to speculate that you should play going to g4, but then that's opening up your king side on the side that you're being attacked, because again, if you look at the bishops, these bishops are all aiming on the king side, and the queen is supporting the battery. I mean, it's clearly not really good for white to keep waiting around for black to do something, because black already equalized in this game like 2 or 3 moves, not even 2 moves, like almost 5 or 6 moves ahead. I mean previously, and black is now playing to have a better position. So didn't really understand what bishop to h2 was doing. Game continued with rook to d8. Again, queen to e3. Just no idea. I think maybe uh, uh, can't even explain it. Maybe white is just trying to activate his pieces somehow, but this is not the way to go. So Zadock immediately took more space on the king side, and then before was played, and this was now uh, the beginning of the end for white. So bishop takes h2, knight takes h2, and knight jumps to d5. Now if you look at this knight, look at how beautiful this knight is placed on d5. The other knight has the potential of coming to f6 and adding more support. The pawn on c6 and e6, they're also supporting the knight on d5. So I didn't, if you're white here, you can't really be happy with the position, because again, the knight comes in with a major attack to win a piece. I mean, a fork of the knight and the queen, and you can't really take back with the knight, because after pawn takes, you have to sacrifice your queen, because if not, you're just going to lose a piece for nothing. And after takes, pardon, that wasn't the right move. After takes and king to h7 and moving the bishop back maybe here. After takes, and anything really from here. I mean, queen to c6 is just okay, and the game continues, but white is, I mean, black is having a lot of play, and in exchange for the two rooks, yes, you as white you have two rooks for the queen, but this is not really playable. I mean, black still has a couple of pieces. I mean, you're just going to be outplayed by the queen eventually. Plus, after opening up some lines on the queen side, I think black will just be sitting comfortably. So after the knight to d5, bishop takes was played, and after pawn takes on d5, and the pawn on c takes on d5, attacking the knight on c3. So black has to move. White has to move the queen to defend the knight, and Zadock chose to add more pressure. Knight to b5 was played. I mean, I don't know what it does. Maybe it attacks the queen, but even the simplest trade on c2, after rook takes, after this attack and rook to b8, knight takes, pawn takes back, and maybe rook here, knight to f6. I think black is perfectly okay in this position. I mean, the chances can open up the queen side. You have good control on the king side. I mean, you can just round up these pawns. It's much easier for black to play this position than white. Instead, Zadock went for queen to b6, which is also much playable. The knight went back, and after takes, queen takes, there is a lot of pressure on this pawn. You can't really defend it with rook to a3, because then just queen captures on a3. You have to move the knight, because the pressure on it is incredible, and there are not really many moves that white can make to defend the knight. So instead, you move the knight back to b1. Queen takes, knight takes, rook takes on c2, knight d to f3, maybe playing the other knight, I don't know, but the position is still lost, as you can see. So bishop takes, the game ended really quickly from here. After this takes check, and rook captures on b1, and white resigned. So this was game one from Zadock, looking very sharp. I mean, I like the mentality, and I like the mental condition. I don't even want to say condition. Just like the mentality that he came with to this tournament. And let's keep watching and keep praying that he actually wins the tournament. So tomorrow, let me check who is going to be facing tomorrow. So the chess results link, the link to the server on chess results is causing a lot of problems. I can't really seem to find it. um let me see. So apparently the link isn't visible on the chess results server. Immediately it is. I'm going to share the standings and the future pairings, but it's a Swiss tournament, and for now it looks good for Zadock. He won his first game with black, and we're hoping that the rest of the tournament goes his way. So thank you, and stay with us. We're going to be covering the entire tournament, and we're also going to be looking at other interesting games that will be played by other players who are not Kenyan. So there's an entire team of Kenyans who are there though. There's people from NCBA. They're the ones who won the corporate tournament that was happening, I think, early in the year. So we're going to be looking at the games also. If there are any interesting games, we're going to show. And yeah, stay tuned. Don't forget to comment, subscribe, and like.